In this video, I'm showing you how to draw some shapes and shade them in the Cubist style. So you're going to need a pencil. You're also going to need a ruler, and you're going to need some color pencils. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some shapes. Now these shapes I want to be overlapping. So I'm going to just start by drawing a triangle. And then I'm going to overlap it with a parallelogram. I'm going to draw a circle. Now I would like it to be a perfect circle, but it's okay if it's not. And then I might draw one more shape down here, maybe a square or a rectangle. So here I have four shapes that are overlapping and they're kind of connected to each other. So the Cubist style is really about fracturing an object and shading it in a stylized way that is not realistic, okay? And usually you have areas that are contrasting by each other, okay? So I am actually going to designate the areas that are overlapping as color pencil. So I'm first going to focus on the areas that are not overlapping. So I'm going to first shade this weird shape here, and I'm going to shade it from dark to light. So what you're going to find whenever you start shading is that it's actually hard to shade a bigger shape because you have such a big area. So I'm going to start, like I didn't put this as dark as I possibly can. That's probably about a 5 on the value scale. And that's just where I'm going to start. I feel comfortable starting there. So I'm going to have it dark here and it's fading to white. I'm going to make sure I leave some pure white because those are my 1 values and that's what's going to help with my contrast. All right, now that I have the whole shape, now I can go back and really force some of those 7s to happen, but then very quickly fade the 7 into the rest of my shading. When I say those 7s, I'm talking about the 7 on the value scale. So here I have all the values in this one shape. Now if I went outside of my shape, I can clean that up now. All right, so now I can look at this shape. This is going to be an area of color. So I can designate that as a certain color. Now I don't know what colors I want to do. Maybe I want to do some red and blue. But I could add some lime or a yellow-green to it. I'm going to start with my blue. Now this area over here is light. So I'm going to start the opposite in this shape. I'm going to make it go from dark. Since this is light, I'm going to try to add contrast. I'm going to make it go from dark to light in the opposite way. So here we're trying to do opposites, and that's going to help create contrast. So this shape went from dark to light in this direction, whereas this goes from dark to light in that opposite direction. All right, so now I'm going to look at my triangle. So if this is dark, right here, the opposite needs to be light. So I'm going to actually start shading and going this direction. Now, I'm right-handed, so for me, rotating my paper might be beneficial. If I'm going from dark and fading to light, I need my dark over here so I can pull it in that direction. And I'm going to shade up until about my halfway point, and that's where I'm going to start fading out my values. So anywhere there it seems like there's kind of choppiness, I'm just going to go back and add a little bit more pencil and kind of smooth out those layers. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to really push some of my 7s, make sure I have some really darks, and try to fade them out. All right, so I have dark fading to light there. All right, I'm going to flip it back this way. All right, so here I have dark fading to light, so I probably should have light over here fading to dark. So I'm going to do my green on this one. And I'm pressing pretty hard, and then I get about halfway, that's where I start fading it out. So it goes from very bright to very faded. All right, now this one might be a little bit tricky because it's a circle and the only place that I have dark here, so I am actually going to wait on this one and I'm going to move down here. All right, so I have a tiny overlapping spot there, and it looks like it probably should go from dark this way and fade out to light. So even in the tiniest spots you can fade. The tiny spots are actually very quick. Now I'm going to find my pencil again and I'm going to look at this shape. Really the only thing that I have going on is this. That's a very small spot. I think what I'm going to do is go from dark and fade it out to light. Now, one thing that might help you, I've been starting on the side and then fading out. It might be helpful for you, similar to how we did our value scale, to start in the middle and put your middle value down like a 4 and then fade it out. So if it's too difficult for you to start on the dark side, we'll start in the middle. Start in the middle and fade it out, and then bring in your darks and then fade them out, meeting to where you started. Got a little choppy up there, but that's okay. Again, this is just practice. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I feel like I could probably push my darks just a little bit more. So I'm going to add a little bit more to the paper and fade that out. All right. So here I have my last color spot. Now I used a little bit of red there. I feel like I should use more red here to balance that out. Now it looks like this is really white here, so I'm going to go dark in this shape and fade it out. Okay, so now I just have to figure out my circle. And in Cubism, not every shape that you do is going to be so cut and dry as like, oh, this is definitely light and this is definitely dark. There are going to be times where it gets a little bit tricky to figure out. So I think my best bet here is to just really fade from one side to another. I could go from dark to light or dark to light, and I'm not sure which. I think what I might do is just start with a gray in the center. I'm going to fade that out to light over here. And then I'm going to add my darks over here and fade them to meet my medium shade in the center. Going to push some of those 7s, making it a little bit darker. So even though that circle was tricky, it still looks like the same. It still looks like the same style of shading. All right, so that's how to shade shapes in the Cubist style.